Hello friends and welcome back to the channel where today I'll be walking you through how to beat the brand new Dread Emperor Doom boss from Act 9.3. And folks, I want to lead with this. For most players, this will be the most difficult story boss in the game, and in my opinion, he is more difficult than even the original 6.2 champion boss, and I'm sure you'll see why shortly. Now, whether you're here because you just got backhanded into next century by Doom, or you're looking for an idea of what to expect before jumping into 9.3, you've come to the right place because I'm going to break everything down for you right now. Before we get started, I do have a quick favor to ask of you, and that is, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please take a quick moment now and do so. I would really appreciate it. In addition, if you are planning on making any sort of purchases in the game, just a quick reminder that I have a creator code available now, which you can enter in on the promo code section of the web store before making a purchase. It doesn't cost you anything extra to do, and it is a great way to support my content if you enjoy what I do. Finally, just a quick disclaimer, as usual, all of the gameplay that you're going to see in this guide was recorded during the Dread Emperor Doom boss beta that the CCP was given access to several months ago. Now, if you see something in the gameplay that doesn't quite line up with what I'm saying, assume that what I'm saying is accurate. And if there are any further changes to the fight after it or this guide goes live, I'll leave all of those in a pinned comment below. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's start with a few very important things that you should know about before jumping into this fight. The very first thing that you need to know about Dread Emperor Doom is that he takes 99% less damage from all sources, but unlike the previous Ouroboros bosses, he has no armor that can be destroyed, and there is no wounded state that you can push him into in order to deal substantial damage to him. Secondly, Doom is immune to stun, special lock, all forms of ability accuracy reduction, and all forms of power manipulation except for Petrify and Amplify, and those two we'll cover in a bit more detail shortly. Third, none of Doom's attributes can be lowered below 50%, so most importantly, this includes things like ability power rate and crit damage rate. So even though you can place Petrifies on him, just be aware that you cannot reduce his power rate by more than half of what it is at the start of the fight. Next, Dread Emperor Doom will steal 1% of your power every second, and you cannot stop him from doing this. If you are using a champion who is immune to power steal, you won't lose your power, but he will still just gain 1% power for himself anyway. Next up, it would not be a fight against Dr. Doom if we didn't cover his heavy attack. If at any point in this fight you get hit by his heavy attack, it is an instant KO, a literal slap in the face. Now, you cannot interrupt his heavy, but you can punish it, and that may or may not come in handy for you later on in the fight. Let's cover his special attacks next. So Doom's Special 1 will trigger something called the Aura of Ourboros. Try saying that 3 times fast. Now, this functions similarly to OG Doom's Aura in that he cannot be knocked down by a heavy attack or a special attack while it's active. He'll just resist those and probably counterattack. In addition though, while the aura is active, Dread Emperor Doom is passively unblockable, he cannot be evaded or caused to miss, and he ignores any sort of unstoppable effect that is on the attacker. Now, while you cannot stop this aura from triggering, you can reduce its duration by 1 second for a Petrify or a slow effect on him. So if you have both a Petrify and a slow on him, you can reduce it by 2 seconds. Now, when it comes to Doom's Special 2, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that he will not trigger the Aura of Ourboros from the Special 2. The bad news is that if he uses his Special 2 5 times in any single phase, he will instantly gain 3 bars of power and you will immediately die. Now, despite the constant threat of instant death looming large over many aspects of this fight, your best defense against this is just keeping up the tempo of the fight, and you'll kind of see what I mean when we get into the gameplay itself. Alright, let's move on to the 3 main mechanics in this fight, and the first one is called Amplify. So during each phase of the fight, Doom is going to gain these bright pink Amplify Passives, and each of them is going to increase his ability power rate by 30%. So that means as he gets these Amplifies, the amount of power he gains from that constant 1% power steal is going to be increased. You will still only lose 1% power per second, but every Amplify he has means he is going to get more than that for himself. Now, if you ignore these amplifies or you allow them to stack up, the power gain will quickly get out of control and you will die guaranteed. Now, up to 4 of these amplifies will persist between fights, so dying is not like a free ticket away from the power gain. Okay, so how do you deal with these amplifies? That brings us to our second main mechanic, which is called Doom's Will. Doom will start each phase with 99 persistent will charges, and your goal is to remove them all, which will trigger a cutscene, and then that'll push you on to the next phase. Now, there are 2 ways to remove Doom's Will. The first way is by knocking him down with a special attack, and doing it this way will remove 4 will. Remember though, you can only knock him down when he does not have that Aura of Ourboros active from his special 1. The second way to remove his will is by hitting him during his special attacks, and each time you do this, you will consume 1 Amplify passive off of him to remove 4 will. Each special contains 2 very brief windows where you can dash in and hit him, so at a minimum, you are looking to remove 8 will per special attack that he uses. Certain champs are able to do this a lot easier than other champs. We'll cover that in the next big section. The last main mechanic that we need to cover is something called the Baptism of Doom. Now, at the start of the fight, when you would be knocked out, Doom instead inflicts this effect on you called the Baptism of Doom, which is essentially just a permanent stun. When you are stunned like this, he's going to float over to you and use his heavy attack to instantly knock you out. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, if I was going to die anyways, what's the big deal? In each phase, Doom has a different method of inflicting the Baptism of Doom effect on you, which means that in every phase, he has some way to kill you instantly. And if that wasn't bad enough, these methods persist between phases, so the further you get into the fight, the more likely it is that a single mistake means instant death. Now, as a parting gift, whenever Doom kills one of your champions via the Baptism of Doom, he will bestow a crossfight effect on them called Doom's Blessing. And for each of these crossfights on a given champion, that champion will be able to remove 1 extra will whenever knocking him down with a special attack or when hitting him during one of his special attacks. Now, these crossfights do stack up, but they are removed when you hit the next phase. So essentially, although this instant death mechanic is very punishing, each time you revive a champion, that champion should have a much easier time removing Doom's Will, and that should make the remainder of the current phase a lot shorter for you. Alright, everybody out there still with me? So now that you have an idea about what to expect in this fight, let's talk a bit about the best champs to bring on your team. Now, unlike previous bosses, Dread Emperor Doom belongs to the superior class, which means every champion you bring is going to have class disadvantage when fighting him. Now, the absolute best options for this fight are champions who have multi-hit medium attacks. Each individual hit in a multi-hit medium attack will consume 1 Amplify and remove 4 of Doom's Will, which means when hitting Doom during his special attacks, these champions will be able to remove more Amplifies, more effectively keep his power gain under control, and get through each phase much more quickly. Now, during my testing, there were a few champions that really stood out to me as top options. My absolute favorite champion for this fight was Black Cat. Her double medium is very smooth, and the animation is quick enough that I was able to consistently hit him during both windows in each of his 2 special attacks. Rounding out the top options are Werewolf by Night, Black Widow Deadly Origins, Domino, Silk, Quicksilver, and Lady Deathstrike. Now, with these last 3 in particular, I found the timing on their mediums very tight. If you're better with them than I am, you'll probably have a bit more success, but I would lean more heavily to the first few champions in this list. Now, if you don't have any of those champions available, your second tier options are going to be anybody with access to Petrify or Slow or Taunt. So Void and Anti-Venom both have easy access to Petrify. That's going to reduce the duration of his aura by 1 second. In addition, the Petrify will mitigate some of his ability power rate, but remember that you cannot turn it off. You cannot reduce it below 50%. Similarly, a champ like Joaquin Torres or Red Guardian have easy access to Slow, which will also reduce the duration of that aura by 1 second. Now, when it comes to Taunt, it doesn't do anything specific to counter Doom's kit, but with the crazy amount of power gain that you're likely to experience in this fight, having a champion like one of the She-Hulks who can encourage Doom to more frequently use his special attacks will help you prevent him from throwing too many special 2s and thus ending the fight. So let's talk briefly about Power Steel immune champs such as Count Nefaria, Spider-Woman, and Photon. These champions are kind of a double-edged sword because, again, you won't lose your access to special attacks because he won't be able to steal your power, but Doom will still gain the power anyway, and you have no way of turning it off even when your power is at 0. So I would recommend a little bit of caution before you use one of these 3 champs. Now, if all else fails and you don't have any of the champions that we've talked about already, the good news is that pretty much any champion can do this fight because there aren't any effects or mechanics that straight up lock out any champion or utility. In addition, the rank of your champion really doesn't matter here because Doom can easily kill you throughout the fight with one hit, so don't feel like you have to bring in a 7-star rank 4 champion. The difference here between like a 7-star rank 1 and a rank 4 champion is basically the amount of block damage that you're taking. But remember, he is going to be unblockable a lot whenever he has that Aura of Ourboros from his special 1, which means the number of times that you'll likely be blocking him is very low. Now, all that being said, there are not really any champions that you should explicitly avoid. However, you really don't want to go into this fight with a 6-star champion or below. For each rarity below 7-star, Doom will lose 2 less will each time you would remove some. So for example, a 6-star will only be able to remove 2 will when knocking him down with a special attack and 2 will when hitting him during his special attacks. This means that you're going to be doing twice the work with a 6-star that you would be doing with a 7-star. A 7-star champion, again, even if it's a low rank, even if it's not one of the top options, is always going to be better and faster here than a 6-star champ. Okay, one final thing before we jump into the fight itself. There are 4 total phases to this fight. I'm going to put this table up on screen here for you. And in each phase, Doom has a different way of gaining those pink Amplify Passives. And you need him to gain these in every phase because you want to remove them by hitting him during his special attacks. If you hit him during his special attacks and he has no Amplify Passives on him, then you're not doing anything to him. Similar to previous boss fights, Dread Emperor Doom also has effects that persist from one phase to the next. We kind of talked about this earlier. Unfortunately, the effects that persist for him are the methods in which he can instantly knock you out by applying Baptism of Doom. So note that in phase 1, he can only do this when you would have otherwise been knocked out already, but by the end of the fight, taking any single hit, basic or special, from him immediately puts that permanent stun on you, and he will Doom slap you into oblivion. And to make matters even worse, remember that he will also be frequently unblockable via that aura from his special 1. And when I said this was the most difficult story boss, this is why. The further you get into the fight, the more likely a single mistake kills you instantly. Now, I am going to talk you through all of these phases in more detail, of course, but I wanted to put this table on screen for you so you can kind of use it as a reference if you need to during the fight. Alright, I think we've covered pretty much everything, so let's go ahead and jump into the fight itself. Okay, at the start of the fight you'll be in phase 1, and this is where you'll want to get a feel for his animations and his special attacks. Try and only bait the special 1 here and avoid pushing him too far above a single bar of power. Remember that he will constantly be stealing or gaining power throughout the fight, and you want to leave yourself plenty of a buffer in his power meter. This is going to give you lots of time to bait the special 1 in case he decides to turtle up at all. And if he gets to the special 2, don't immediately panic. Remember that you won't die unless he throws 5 of them total in this phase. Now in this phase, Doom will gain 2 Amplify Passives every time he uses a special attack, and he'll gain an extra Amplify if he had none before using that special attack. You're going to want to start immediately getting into the habit of hitting him during the 2 windows in his special 1. Now if you're using a normal champ with only 1 hit in their medium attack, this means that you're only going to be able to safely and consistently remove 2 amplifies per special, which means that he's going to net 1 amplify every time. If you're using a champ with a multi-hit medium, you're always going to break even on amplify passes. Now it is worth noting here that normal champs can get in 2 hits per window in each of Doom's special attacks, a medium and a light. But the timing on this is extremely difficult, and I really would not recommend attempting it. Now, you can also knock him down with a special attack to remove his will, but you need to carefully choose your moment when doing this, because if he has that aura up, he's going to resist the special attack and probably pound your face in. Now, for me in this phase, I really didn't use my specials very much at all, because I ended up wanting to play the very risky game of making sure that he always had some of my power available to steal. Doing this meant that I never needed to block bait heavies from him, and I avoided a lot of unnecessary chip damage. Now, if you do want to use specials in this phase, you can back off a bit, but don't wait too long, because remember, he'll be stealing power, and if he steals enough power for you to drop below a bar, then you won't have a special attack available anymore. You can use the Striker to wait out the aura, and remember too, as long as the aura is expired by the time the final hit of your special attack would land, it's going to be safe. So if you're really familiar with the timing of your own champion's special attacks, that's going to be a lot safer and easier for you. When you've depleted all 99 of Doom's will charges, a short cutscene will play where an explosion will remove 33% of his maximum health and all of his power. After that, he's going to regain all 99 will charges, and the next phase will start. Once you move into the second phase, things will immediately start to get more difficult. In this phase, Doom will gain 4 Amplify Passives whenever you knock him down, and you can do this with either a heavy or a special attack. Starting in this phase and for the rest of the fight, if you are hit by Doom's Special 1, he will inflict that Baptism of Doom passive on you, and then you're dead, so nailing the timing for his Special 1 is critical. Now, the tricky part about granting him amplifies in this phase is the Special 1 aura, because he will resist all knockdowns, which means you need to time your heavies or your specials to coincide with the aura being off. So what I tried to do here is to bait and punish his Special 1 to fill my Striker gauge. Then when I had a Striker available, I waited until the aura was gone or nearly gone, sidestepped into my Striker, and then used the Striker stun to get an easy opening for either a heavy or a special attack. And then from here, rinse and repeat, making sure that you are hitting him during the Special 1 to remove the amplifies that you just gave him by knocking him down. Now, in this phase, you really want to try to get into a loop of baiting the Special 1, hitting him during it to remove the amplifies, and then knocking him down afterward to set yourself up for the next special attack. And again, if he's not cooperating, if he would rather use the Special 2, don't panic, because that limit of 5 Special 2s has reset in this phase, and you have a good buffer to start out with. Removing all of Doom's will a second time will trigger that same cutscene again, and the third phase will begin. Phase 3 ramps up the difficulty even more. In this phase, being hit by any special attack will inflict Baptism of Doom and the instant KO, so you have to be extra careful. Now, in this phase, Doom gains the Amplify Passives a little differently. Every time he uses the Special 2, he will gain 3 Amplify Passives for each Special 2 he's used in this phase already. So the first one will grant him 3, the second one gives him 6, the third will give him 9, the fourth will give him 12, and the fifth, well, you'll be dead, so it doesn't matter. This phase is extremely dangerous, because if you bait too many Special 2s right away, then you're going to die either from the intense power gain or from him using too many Special 2s. So what you want to do here is bait a single Special 2 to grant him some Amplify Passives. Then you want to switch to only baiting the Special 1 and hitting him during it until all amplifies on him have been consumed. Once he has none left, go back to baiting 1 Special 2, and then he'll gain 6 amplifies. Switch back to only baiting the Special 1, and again, do that until all of those amplifies are removed. Another strategy you can use in this phase is that after you punish a Special 2, do only like 1 or 2 hits, and then you can either use your special attack to knock him down, or use your Striker and then into a heavy attack to knock him down. Remember, there is no aura associated with the Special 2, so the knockdowns here will always be safe. This will remove some of his extra will, but it is risky because it's not going to consume any of his amplified charges, but it still should make the phase go a little faster. Now, what you want to avoid doing in this phase is baiting too many Special 2s consecutively, because once those Amplify Passives start to stack up, his power gain really becomes unmanageable. Doom can gain a total of 30 Amplify Passives in this phase, which is way more than you need to remove 99 will charges. If you do happen to die during this phase, the special 2 counter will reset, so you won't have to come back in on your next attempt and immediately have to deal with a ton of power gain. Removing all of Doom's will charges a third time will trigger that cutscene again, and the final phase will start. Okay, you've made it to the final phase, and if you thought things were tough already, hoo boy, get ready because stuff is about to hit the fan. The pacing in this phase is frantic. In this phase, Doom will automatically gain 1 Amplify passive every 2.5 seconds, which means you need to be constantly removing him in order to keep his power gain under control. In addition, any basic or special attack hit from Doom results in that Baptism of Doom and the instant KO. And since you're going to be baiting the special one for pretty much the entire phase, he is also going to be unblockable for pretty much the entire phase. Now, to get through this phase, what you want to do is always bait the special one and hit him during it to remove any Amplify passives that he has. Don't use your striker because you're going to need it for the very end of the fight. I also wouldn't worry too hard about using specials either because he's still going to be gaining Amplify passives while your special attack animation is playing, and that just ends up wasting way too much time. So you want to get into this back and forth rhythm here of letting his amplifies push him to his special one, and then hitting him during the special one to remove those amplifies. And even if you are removing his amplifies at a higher rate than he is gaining them, or if he even has none when he uses his special attack, you still want to stick to this rhythm because backing off at any point means you're dealing with the unblockable and you're going to let that power gain stack up and then you're eventually going to die. This phase ends up being pretty quick though, just because you're constantly removing his will by hitting him during those special attacks. Once you removed all of his will, Doom can only be knocked out by a heavy attack, and this is why you've saved your striker. Wait until the aura is gone, or almost gone, sidestep into the striker, and then land the most satisfying heavy attack of all time to knock him out. Let out a roar of victory and congratulate yourself on beating one of the most difficult bosses in MCOC. Okay, let's take a few moments here and cover the timing for the dexing and punishing of the special attacks. As usual, I will show you this first in slow motion, then in slow motion with some audio cues, and then finally in real time with some audio cues. Now, both of these special attacks are very easy to dex, but the windows in which you can punish him during the special attack are what you want to pay attention to. So there's an initial blast on the special one, you dash in after that, another blast, you dash in the second time, and then he fires the tornado. In my experience, that tornado is most likely going to be the hit that actually hits you, so use that first phase of the fight again to get used to the timing for this special attack. Now let's take a look at it in slow motion with some audio cues. And then finally in real time with the audio cues. Alright, let's move on to the special 2. It's actually just as easy. There's just an extra dex at the start. So at the start of the special attack, he's going to fire off like 2 fireballs. You need to dex them both. 1 and then 2. After the second one, you can dash in and hit him. Then he's going to do the explosion thing, and then he's going to slam the ground, and you can dex that. So again, the same 2 windows, just an extra dex at the start of the special. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one in slow motion with the audio cues. And then finally, one more time in real speed with the audio cues. The last thing I want to note with these specials is that the timing on them is pretty generous, so if you aren't landing the timing exactly the way that I am, chances are it's still going to be okay. Just some final thoughts on the difficulty of this fight, because it's way closer, in my opinion, on a scale to Ares than it is to someone like Lotan or Orochi. Now earlier I made the comparison to the 6.2 champion boss. The main difference between that fight and this one is that in the champion fight, you could go in, you could spend 30, 40, 50 revives in that final phase and make 0 progress because of that indestructible. That is not really the case in this fight. Your champions will be getting that crossfight on themselves whenever they revive. That'll allow you to get to the next phase faster by removing more will at a faster rate. Now that said, again, most mistakes are punished by instant death, which really does suck, and you should absolutely expect to use a few revives on this fight. I wouldn't bother with potions, because given that everything is basically a one-hit KO, healing up your champ makes no sense at all. You're going to be frustrated, you're going to be mad, you're probably going to say a lot of bad words. I know, because I went through all of that when I went through the beta test for him on the CCP server, but I promise you, stick with it. Pause the fight, reference the guide if you need to, and at the end of it, you are going to get him down. Alright folks, that's going to do it for another boss guide, and I sincerely hope it is helpful for you. If you have any questions about the fight or anything I talked about in this guide, leave them in the comment section below. I do read all of my comments and I will respond to most of them. If you found this guide useful, again, let me know with a comment below, and you can do me a huge favor by pressing that like button, sharing the video with your friends, your alliance mates, anybody you know who might be really struggling with this fight. Finally, I would ask that you please consider subscribing to the channel. You can always change your mind later, but chances are, if you liked this video, you're going to like everything else I have available. Good luck with Dread Emperor Doom, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.